Now, as you can see, I've got a basic sketch, and of course I'm using acrylics, and this canvas is toned with yellow ochre. You can tone with any color that you like, but yellow ochre fits the scheme of the painting, the color scheme. So I went with yellow ochre. I'm going to take some of my burnt umber, which I used to sketch with, some cad yellow, sap green, white, just some color. Very much on the yellow ochre side. I'm going to begin to create just a soft background that I can use just as a filler material, really, to have something to pull maybe some sun rays over, perhaps. Could be fun. I'm going to dip into my foundation medium regularly. Helps the paint to flow. Make sure I've got soft edges and whatnot. There we go. And before we go very far, I'd like to thank our Patreon members. So if you're not a member of Patreon, I would highly recommend you at least go check it out. You might find some stuff on there that helps you quite a bit in your painting journey. I do my best to kind of listen to what people want and do that. So we do live streams as well as a bunch of other stuff. You're going to really enjoy it. Plus, your support helps a lot for me creating new videos and whatnot. So thank you. There we go. Just see what I'm doing here with the lighting. Just hitting this with the light, creating pockets of light. Oh, I think that's going to be nice. That lighting in there. Just, I think 3/4 of this painting is going to be light. 1/4 everything else. That's what I think. That's the way I think it's going to work, going to happen. Let's see. Boom. There we go. All of this is going to get misted over. I hope so at this point. If I wasn't planning mist before, I sure am now. It's starting to look kind of messy. And the mist will cover that messiness up, and I think it'll be good. Drag some of that highlight color into there. I'm going to allow the yellow ochre to shine through quite a bit. Now I'm going to darken it slightly, and I'm going to kind of work out and progress from this lighter area to maybe some slightly darker, but I don't want to go too extreme. I want to keep everything still fairly light in the background. And of course, we're working with these golden tones. I'm using my little angle filbert brush or dagger brush. Same thing, different name, to create these little effects. So it's a good brush for foliage like this in the jungle, especially. Now it's important to continually mist your paint. And while I'm allowing this to dry, I'm just going to kind of hold my mister bottle down and just mist what's underneath it. If you get any water up in the wet paint, it'll cause weird drips and stuff to happen, beads, and it would maybe be okay in the forest, but typically it's not a very good thing. So let's go ahead and paint in just some more background color. I don't need to go crazy. In fact, if I'm going to dilute it that much, I'm going to have some foundation medium in it. I like that foundation medium quite a bit. So let's go ahead and add some more of that to the paint. This is going to be a waterfall, but I need to, there it is, bring in some amount of color to that waterfall. Again, I've misted that, remember, with water, and that's allowing this paint to flow, and it may take a couple of coats, but this is the great part about using that base tone, the dry base tone. I can allow this paint to work. Oop, that's a tree. I'm going to leave that blank just for now because I want that to be darker. But I can allow this to work for me instead of not, I can use glazes and my strokes in a very interesting way to create this jungly rock work. Now, as this is drying, let's move on to something else. That's probably enough. See, it's very rough, very textured, and I can see right through it. And I think that makes a difference. A little darkness right there. Okay, that'll work. Now, let me just, real quick, right down here, let me just, yeah, it sounds like I know what I'm doing, doesn't it? Let me get a few rocks going. Now, I do know I want a bit of a golden cast to my water. Maybe I want a little tinge of a greenish cast to the water just to reflect some of those colors which are not there yet. There you go. There you go. Right over here. It's very different, very different. I'm glazing more than normal here, and I like that. Why? Just literally just to be different. Just to be different. I'll establish everything properly, don't worry. All these, why would you worry? It's my painting. Yeah. Let's nobody worry about this. I was going to say let me worry about it, but I don't need to worry either. There you go. There we go. Okay. Yes, that'll work. Oh, see that? Just the few strokes, we've got something. So anyway, let's take a look at the paintings that you guys did of our last one before I forget. It's always fun to see what you're up to, so share using the information on the screen. If I see it in time, I'll get it in the next video. There we go. All of this will probably have to be established more later, but at least I'm getting the feeling of, hey, there's something going on down here. Not too much of that yellow, cad yellow, that'll kind of mess it all up. And not too much green, just a little. Just a little. Too much of that I think will destroy this effect. But a little green is okay. I don't want much, because it'll kind of ruin that effect of sunlight to have too much green. And then maybe just a little bit right here. A little bit of a highlight or something. Well, I'm going to go ahead and place in a larger tree, which of course I've been planning this whole time. So let's place him in right there. Actually, I need to squirt out some more paint, but I can actually kind of mix up a black with some just blue and red and green. We'll make black in case you're interested. So I'll just, I really need some black, but I'll just mix it up real quick. I'll get some more later. There we go. And yeah, that'll be okay. Might make it just a little thicker. Yeah, okay, let me stand back, see if yeah, that'll be okay. Yeah, it'll be okay. And then perhaps, I actually like that blue. What do you think? You won't be able to tell me, except I guess in the comments later. Too late. I'll have to just sort of decide right here. But I think I'll make this a little more bluish, because that reads more like a shadow in there, if that's kind of a blue tone. Hopefully that even shows up in the camera. If it doesn't, just imagine that kind of looking like a blue tone in the shadow. And then I'll do the same over here. Oh, just a little. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. I believe that's cooling that area. Even just a tiniest bit here in the waterfall. Also, this is good stuff. Balancing color here, cool color and warm color. Balancing them. Now here, I think it's going to be my little shore of rocks. I've already painted those in. I kind of lost them for some reason. Let me just find them again. Painting with an awful lot here with a big brush, but it'll be okay. There. Let this dry, and then we'll come back and fix everything that needs to be fixed. Now I'm going to take just a little bit of white here and yellow and a lot of water, mostly water, and I'm going to float. This is all dry, so I can float some of our beginning stages of mist. And actually I've got a little bit of foundation medium mixed in there as well, which I feel like helps it as it dries. I think if you have too much water, it just kind of doesn't dry out as evenly, as nicely. That foundation medium flows, to me it flows a little better. So there you go. And that makes sense. But I'm just going to take and float this color, and obviously it's going to dry more translucent than what you see here. Obviously. But there's a lot more paint in that glaze than I typically have, so it's not going to dry as translucent as it usually does. I got to remember that. I'm reminding myself, really, a little bit more yellow. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to fade that out. I can take just a tiniest, you know how I squirt with my bottle facing downward, just a little water. Smooth that water out, make sure it's even, and I can actually use that water. That'll help me float this over my background area. This is just the initial, yes, just the initial stages of my background mist. It's a little too linear, so I'm just going to take my hand. This is water-based acrylic. It'll just rinse right off. I'm just going to take that and pull it in the right direction for the landscape, just like so. That's a good first step. I don't believe that that's finished at all. I believe there's a lot more to do, but I'm going to go ahead and get just an initial feeling of mist up here. And it may not be, it may not be perfect again. I can kind of use my hand to just feather it. Now I went ahead and squirted out some more paint. We didn't have much to work with, so I got some more color, and I took a break, so actually my paint has dried. It doesn't take very long for acrylics to dry. Let's take a little bit of our yellow ochre and white, but this really is not a bad thing, It's actually kind of a good thing. And I'm gonna take a little bit more of my foundation medium, help me get my palette reset, Get some fresh color. Right up here. I don't want it to be too bright, but I do want to just begin to place in the feeling of, there it goes, a little waterfall. Boom, like this. I'm just gonna skip right along, and create the look. I've got my number 4 bristle brush. I'm just using my hand resting my hand on the canvas to make it nice and steady. I've got a little foundation medium in there, not a lot. A little more yellow ochre might be pretty. To me, there's just such a beautiful yellow ochre light, throughout this whole painting, and I think it just makes it really makes it nice. It makes it work. It's different. A lot of the times I'll use a lot of purple and blue mist for a painting like this, and I'm enjoying sticking with these slightly different colors. There we go. You can build this waterfall up little by little. It doesn't have to be a real fast process. Make it just the way you want it, take your time. Get it just right. And definitely allow the background to show through. That's what it's there for. It'll make more sense when everything's kind of more together here. It'll take a layer or two. You have to allow it to dry and then paint back over it again. Because it's acrylic, it dries out a little bit more transparent. Now I'm going to go ahead and just paint in a little bit of highlight, a little bit of texture. You can see I just begin to do a little mid-tone, but now we're going to highlight. And of course, this being acrylic, it may take me 1 or 2 coats of paint to get it built up just the way I want it. But again, that does make for a better painting, really, because it kind of forces you to build in more layers of color, really. And I like that. That works. It's very convenient to go ahead and just take your finger and smudge, or a clean brush if you don't want to get your fingers messy. I don't know why you wouldn't. It's literally water-based acrylic, but yeah, anyway, there you go. Just gets a little bit of that light coming in. And toward the end, I may mist this out. I'm not totally sure. You can always mist a little more, but if you mist too much, you're gonna have to go back and repaint your detail. So I'd much rather err on the side of not misting enough than misting too much. I hate to lose my waterfall. It's actually kind of pretty, or my background for that matter, or the background. So anyway, I'm just gonna play around with these colors and establish my rocks here, and a lot of repetitive action, but it's worth it. Worth it. I'll try to mix up the color as much as possible too. A little bit of maybe like a green here. Yeah, I don't know, just moss. You have to imagine there'd be quite a bit of moss and whatnot here as well. So we'll do that. But again, nothing too fluorescent green. Everything needs to have that yellow ochre tinge to it, at least here. Maybe a little cooler over here, but nice and warm over here in that area of sunlight. Now I'm going to place in a few detailed foreground plants. And this is really my favorite part about painting jungle paintings or tropical paintings when I do them like this, and I do every once in a while. It's been a while, but anyway, my favorite part is doing exactly what you see I'm doing right now, which is creating these large plants in the foreground with a bit of detail to them, almost like a flower painting. There's just maybe not that much, they're not that big, but there is some detail to them, and I like that. I think it's kind of fun, and it's different to be able to paint that. Your leaves actually have shape, form, and even a little bit of shading to them. You go back and add a little shading on your leaves, I think is appropriate, and I think that works out pretty good. So anyway, various kinds of plants, various colors, everything should, for the most part, kind of match with the theme of the colors of the painting, I'd love to see, I believe this is called an elephant ear, kind of a fern, not a fern, but it's a plant. You've seen them. You know what I'm talking about. Giant plant, like so. So we'll paint something that kind of looks, a little resembles that, And we get some shading in it because we don't want it just all the same color. Anyway, I'm just going to play around here. Kind of a slow painting, actually. This isn't as quick as you might think. Just because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of detail to put in. And there's not a lot of large areas where I can just block it in quickly. This is a lot of just, little bits and pieces over the course of the entire area down here. There's a lot to it. But it's okay. It's okay. It's fun. So get yourself a cup of coffee. Take a few minutes and do these little details. Keep in mind the direction of the lighting and what may be blocking it, what may be casting shadows and whatnot. Now I've got kind of a nice orangey red color and not overly mixed. So I've got a lot of marbling in that color, and I think that's going to help me out quite a bit, really. Don't want to put a little effort into those leaves there. I don't want to cover them, but just to go right around them maybe with this. Just create another little plant. I like that. Some sort of tropical jungle plant. Some sort of it. I don't know. Just interesting. So that adds a little color to this area. I don't need a lot, just enough, really. That is just enough. What about one back up in here? I don't want it too bright. Let me add a little burnt umber to it. Burnt umber. A little more. Burnt umber. All right, let's see what that does to it. Just because I don't want it too bright back up in here. I can always brighten it up. Don't want it too tall. Another one of these jungle plants of color. I don't think it's a flower. I think it's just a plant that has color. I just think could be interesting to add. I've seen these before. Stuff like it. I don't know that I've seen anything exactly like. Just, I'm adding color. Adding color. I like that. And a little, maybe just a little highlight in there. I see a little highlight. It's nice. There, you could take this really as far as you want to. Or stop short, whatever you want when it comes to painting details. When it comes to painting details. Do a little, do a lot. It doesn't really matter. Whatever fits the style that you're looking for. And I believe this is about what I need right here. Maybe just a touch of that color. And I can sprinkle that color throughout other areas as well. I think that's kind of halfway pretty, actually. Kind of halfway pretty. And I might just take a few bits of green, mix it kind of with some of that red, I don't know. And just real quick, I might, add in what would be vegetation to this. Some green vegetation on this as well. Now this one, perhaps I'll just cover it totally. Bury it back up in there. Now it's time to begin the water, which I really should have done a long time ago. The water down below, obviously we've got some water in already, clearly. So I'm gonna take some of my white and yellow. Imagine that. I think it'll work. Actually, a little tinge of red would be maybe nice, maybe, just a little. Okay, let's try that. Not much of a watercolor, looks more like a path color, but I think in the context of the painting, it'll work. There, I'm going to place on them. I'm just like everything else with acrylic. I may have to do this a couple times to build up, enough layers. Now, I'm going to take my mister bottle, and some of this is wet. I'm going to be very careful. I'm just going to hit only the water area with water. There we go. And that will help my edges just diffuse automatically. See that? You see how my edges are starting to run and diffuse automatically. It's good stuff. Very good stuff. There we go. Oh, I like that. So what's nice about acrylic painting is it's a little bit more, in some ways, in control and more controlled than oil. Oil, which is really my favorite part about oil most of the time, is that it's very spontaneous to work with. Things just happen. With acrylic, you tend to, as the artist, to kind of make stuff happen a little more, but then that comes with its own benefits, because now all of a sudden you can make it the way you want it instead of, with oils, let's face it, whether we want to admit it or not, there are a lot of things that happen, mostly what appears to be on accident, and it may not really be accidental. It has to do with how you paint and many other things, and it's repeatable, but you know what I mean. There's a bit of spontaneousness about it that, like, boom, oh, I just touched it and I got thousands of different, but that doesn't happen so much with acrylic. How'd I get off on that? Oh, well, yeah, let me just darken this color a little, throw some mud into it, and I think I'm gonna take a little more mud. It wasn't quite enough mud. There we go. Of course, it'll dry out a shade darker. I want that to have that. So I can blend it really good because the canvas is wet with the water. But this is coming down like so. Yeah, it's kind of nice. Now, one of the last things I'm gonna do is take my black on the flat blender brush and a lot of water, and you can see it dripping off my palette, but that's okay. Black and a lot of water. And I'm going to actually just glaze this side of the painting. You see, that's one great thing about acrylics, is that you can glaze them. And that's just exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to glaze it. I actually did this in my last Patreon live stream, so definitely check it out if you have not already. But yeah, I came back and I glazed just like this. What this is going to do is this is going to create just a little bit more softness, a little more shading on this side. It won't be as bright, and I think it needs it. Boom, just like so, right on the edge. And once that dries, you'll see the detail through there again. I won't lose any detail. Shouldn't lose any detail. There we go. And we just hit this side as well and just darken that ever so slightly. Even right up under that water area, darken that a little. Right up in here, darken that just a little. Just a glaze. Mostly water, a little bit of paint. The idea is, what it does is just like a Photoshop filter. It gives you more impact when you darken your corners. It forces your attention, at least encourages attention, to be directed toward the subject. It keeps this even more quiet on this side. That's exactly what I want to do. Well, that about wraps up this painting. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, brush line, and also our Patreon. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.